Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning. Which chapter we have to revise, children? Which chapter we have to revise? Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
कौन सा चैप्टर रिवीजन के लिए है? बोलो.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Which chapter we have to revise?
Chapter 18.
18. Okay. So instead of that chapter, children, let's concentrate on our portions of periodic test, fourth periodic test. So let's come to metals and non-metals. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Chapter number 3. So I think
Yes, ma'am.
those chapters we have only to read. Chapter 18, 19 and 20. So just come to chapter number revision of chapter number 3. Metals and non-metals. So let's start with it.
Ma'am, chapter 3, metals and non-metals, no?
Yes, yes. Metals and non-metals. Why do we classify elements?
It is difficult to study and describe all the properties of all the elements separately. Hence, elements showing similar properties are grouped together and their general characteristics are studied.
Okay, to study the general characteristics and elements showing similar properties, they are grouped, and that is why we classify the elements. Now, Sarah,
Yes, ma'am.
into how many categories are the elements categorized generally, broadly?
Into two, ma'am, metals and non-metals.
Okay. In which form do we see the metals in the earth crust?
In the form of their compounds, like oxides and sulfides.
And about non-metals? How
Yes,
are
ma'am,
non-metals found?
They are found. They are also found in its compounds, and several non-metals exist in their nature in their free state, as well as combined state.
Okay. Next. Okay, now Ria. Ria Kumari.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me what are minerals? Ria.
A mineral is a naturally occurring inorganic substance found deep under the surface of the earth.
And ore?
An ore is a mineral from which one or more metals can be extracted profitably. For example, aluminium is extracted from its bauxite ore and iron from its hematite ore.
Okay, next is Shubh.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me what is metallurgy and what are the different steps involved in extraction of mineral from its ores?
Yes, ma'am. Metallurgy is the process of carrying out metal from its ore. Steps involved in metallurgy are as follows. First is a concentration of the ore. In this method, the impurities of the ore are removed. Second is the reduction of the metal. In this method, the metal is set in its free state from the ore. And third is the refining of metal. In this step, the impurities from the metal are removed and hence the desired metal is obtained.
Okay, correct. Narayani,
Yes, ma'am.
describe at least two physical properties on the basis of which we can just differentiate the metals and non-metals. Two, elaborate description of the 2 points in physical properties. Have you understood my question?
Ma'am, please repeat.
Question is on the just describe 2 points of the physical property on the basis of which we can distinguish between a metal and a non-metal. Anupriya.
Yes, ma'am. In physical property, metals are usually found in a solid form in room temperature, except mercury. Mercury is in liquid state at room temperature, and non-metals are usually found in a solid, liquid, and gas in room temperature. For example, in solid, example carbon and in the example of gases, it is oxygen and nitrogen, and in the example of liquid, it is bromine.
This is one point. एक पॉइंट हुआ, एक पॉइंट और बोलिए। Anupriya, tell one more point. This is about the physical property, physical state. एक और बोलो आप।
Oh, ma'am, means one more point. One more physical property I have to say.
हाँ, one more physical property you will tell.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Second is hardness. Metals are usually hard and non-metals are not usually hard. But there are some exceptions. Like in metals, sodium and potassium are metals, but it can be easily cut by using knife. And there is some exceptions in non-metals also. For example, diamond, which is form of carbon, is the hardest substance.
Kavish,
Yes, ma'am.
Kavish,
Yes,
tell me,
ma'am.
these 2 points she has explained. You take other 2 points of the physical state.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, luster. Metals have a shining surface. This is known as metallic luster. Non-metals generally have a dull appearance. That is, they are non-lustrous. Except iodine is the only non-metal which has a natural luster. Density. Metals generally have a high density. Non-metals generally have a low density. However, there are some exceptions, such as sodium and potassium, which are metals, have a quite low density. The density value is less than that of water.
Okay, Priyanshu,
Yes, ma'am.
4 physical properties have been discussed. आप आगे और 2 करिए।
Yes, ma'am. Tensile strength. Metals have a high tensile strength, but non-metals do not have, except the carbon fibers like diamonds and sonorosity. Metals are sonorous. It means while while being hit by metals are sonorous. It means when we hit them, a ringing sound is produced, while non-metals are not sonorous.
अनुराग, 2 और पॉइंट बताइए फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी का, जो अपार्ट फ्रॉम व्हाट दे हैव टोल्ड।
Yes, ma'am. Malleability and ductility. They are malleable and ductile metals. Non-metal. They are non-malleable and ductile. They are brittle. Tensile strength. Metal. They have high tensile strength.
he has told.
Yes, ma'am.
डक्टिलिटी आप बोले हैं ना, you tell
Ma'am,
ductility.
yes, ma'am. Thermal and electric conductivity. They are good thermal as well as a good electrical conductor. Non-metal. They are non-conductor or insulator except graphite.
Okay. Now, Vashvi,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any point left in physical property?
Yes, ma'am. Sonority.
Oh, that she one student has
हो गया.
told.
Melting point and boiling point and conductivity.
हाँ बोलो।
Ma'am, density and hardness.
Density one has told. Melting point and boiling point is left,
Left
and one is conductivity, I think.
Hardness.
Yes, ma'am.
Conductivity.
Vashvi, explain about it.
Metals have generally high melting point as well as high boiling point. For example, iron, the melting point of iron is 1536 degrees Celsius and its boiling point is 3000 degrees Celsius. But in metal, some exceptions are present. For example, calcium is a metal which have only 28.7 degrees Celsius as its melting point, and non-metals generally have low melting point as well as low boiling points. For example, melting point of sulfur is 119 degrees Celsius. Exceptions there are some exceptions in non-metals also. The melting, for example, diamond, its melting point is very high. That is 3722. No, ma'am, 3723 degrees Celsius.
Okay. Now, next question. Aryan Raj.
Yes, ma'am.
What are metalloids? Give some example.
Yes, ma'am. Some elements which show some properties of metals as well as non-metal. Such elements are called metalloids. Examples are silicon, arsenic, germanium.
Yes.
Yes.
Yashvi Rai.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Now we
conductivity
will,
is left.
in physical property, conductivity is left. Okay, you describe about it.
The ability of a metal to the ability of an element to transfer heat or electrical energy is called its thermal conductivity and its electrical conductivity respectively. Thermal conductivity. The conduct metals are good conductors of heat, whereas non-metals are bad conductors of heat or insulators. For example, copper and iron are metals which are used for making cooking utensils. And for example, plastic is an insulator which helps to make its coating cover as to prevent heat from burning. Electrical conductivity. Metals are good conductors of electricity, and non-metals are generally bad conductor of electricity or insulators. For example, copper, gold, and silver are the metal which are widely used in making wires for electrical transmission, and non-metals are but graphite is an exception, which is a non-metal and is a good conductor of electricity, which which are used in batteries.
Now
Ma'am,
Vansh Raj.
air
Yes.
good conductor है heat और electricity का.
क्या?
Air good
What
conductor
are
और electricity का या bad conductor है?
Poor conductor.
air?
Yes, ma'am.
एयर को इन द सेंस ऑफ एयर, तो आप एयर में तो कोई इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास होता नहीं है. ऐसे अगर
Ma'am-
कहोगे तो सब कुछ पास हो सकता है.
Ma'am, when air contains moisture, then a lightning current which able to pass through it.
हाँ, तो लाइट में इलेक्ट्रिक करंट नहीं ना हो रहा है बेटा. उसमें तो आपको मेटल्स या नॉन मेटल्स की जरूरत होती है ना. जब आपको इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास करवाना है तो जब भी मेटल्स या नॉन मेटल्स होगा तभी होगा, और वो प्रेजेंस ऑफ एयर में ही होता है. तो
और
एयर
मैम
के सेंस
का भी बैड कंडक्टर है. हीट का भी बैड कंडक्टर है.
हीट, हाँ, हीट का बैड कंडक्टर है, क्योंकि हीट हमारा एनवायरनमेंट से होकर ही गुजरता है. ठीक है, तो इसलिए उसको हम लोग इलेक्ट्रिक करंट से नहीं ये करेंगे. वी कैन नॉट कंपेयर इलेक्ट्रिक करंट विथ एयर.
ओके मैम, थैंक यू.
ऑल्दो अगर आप कहोगे तो एयर के प्रेजेंस में नहीं, वो तो फिर हीट से कंसर्न नहीं है. नेक्स्ट वंशराज.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me at least 3 points of the physical properties which can differentiate between a metal and a non-metal. कोई भी 3 पॉइंट जो आपको याद है. Just now we have discussed so many points.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ, बोलिए.
One point is left in the conductivity, that the metals that mercury is a metal, but even though it is a metal, it is a poor conductor of electrical conductivity.
हाँ, mercury is the poorest conductor, although it is a metal. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट. वंस आपको याद है कोई भी 2 पॉइंट?
Yes, ma'am.
बोलिए.
Hardness. Most metals are very hard. They can withstand quite high since without getting destroyed. Non-metals are generally not hard. They are metals and easily break into pieces when hammered.
और point बोलिए.
Melting points of boiling points. Metals generally have high meltings as well as high boiling points. For example, melting points of irons is 1536 degrees Celsius and its boiling points are 300 degrees Celsius. Some metals, however, can we lower melting points. From example, the melting points are uh, melting points. They are metals is all 28.7 degrees Celsius.
And what about non-metal?
हाँ बोला.
Next, Ananya,
Yes, ma'am.
रे
tell me about the chemical properties.
डर मान लगा.
Chemical properties of metals and non-metals. First, reaction with oxygen. When metal reacts with oxygen, they form basic oxides in the nature. And when non-metal reacts with oxygen, they form acidic oxides in the nature. Second, reaction with water. Third is reaction with acids. And fourth is the reaction with alkalis.
Next. Next point, who will tell? Aman? Aman Kumar.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me the next point on the basis of chemical properties. How can we differentiate on the basis of chemical properties between metals and non-metals?
Reaction with oxygen, reaction with
Oxygen हो चुका. Water बोलो.
ma'am, reaction with
Reaction
water.
with oxygen. हाँ बोलिए.
मैम एक्सप्लेन करना है.
हाँ एक्सप्लेन करो. क्या बनता है, किस तरह का उसका नेचर रहता है, ये सारा चीजें बताइएगा ना उसके बारे में.
Yes,
कौन
ma'am.
सा गैस लिबरेट होता है.
Ma'am, metals are not generally highly reactive with water.
Metals are
Ma'am,
not reactive with water.
Ma'am, sodium and potassium metals react vigorously with water.
And what about other magnesium ribbon?
Ma'am, magnesium does not react with cold water but reacts on heating.
Now Aryan Raj is there. Aryan Raj.
Yes, ma'am.
आप इसको रिएक्शन विथ वाटर को एक्सप्लेन करो.
Yes, ma'am. With activity.
No need to tell activity. You tell only the result what is made when it reacts with water.
Yes, ma'am. Metals differ in their reactivity towards water. For example, sodium and potassium metals react very vigorously with water. This reaction gives out so much heat that the hydrogen evolved catches fire. Therefore, these metals are stored under kerosene, paraffin wax, And magnesium does not react with cold water but reacts on heating. Zinc reacts with boiling water and iron reacts with steam, indicating that is very much less reactive. Metals like copper, silver, gold, platinum, and mercury do not react with water at all. Non-metals do not react with water, therefore some reactive non-metals are stored in water to prevent their reaction with air. For example, phosphorus kept in water to prevent its contact with air, it catches fire on reaction with air.
Next is Aditi Priya. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
You just tell me what is the chemical properties on the basis of reaction with acid.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell the main point. One main gas is evolved.
Reaction.
Why are you all not ready in the class? Aryan Raj. No,
Yes, ma'am.
Aryan, you tell me the reaction with acids.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, with the help of activity.
You all can't speak without activity? What is the result when a metal reacts with acid and a non-metal
Okay,
reacts with acid? Tell the
Some
direct
metals like
result.
Some metals like copper and mercury do not react with dilute hydrochloric acid. They react with sulfuric acid and nitric acid, but they do not liberate hydrogen gas. Metals like gold and platinum do not react with dilute acids. Non-metals generally do not react with acids. Some non-metals like sulfur and phosphorus react with hot concentrated sulfuric acid or nitric acid, but they do not liberate hydrogen gas.
Yes. Next, but what about the metals?
Ma'am, your voice is not coming.
Ma'am, your video is freezed.
Ma'am, your
You
voice
are
is not
not
coming.
audible, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I told you all that what is the reaction going on between the metals like iron, zinc with the acid. Who was
Yes,
speaking?
ma'am. Ma'am, may I speak?
हाँ बोलिए.
Yes, ma'am. When metals react with acids, they form their respective salts and liberate hydrogen gas, such as iron reacts with hydrochloric acid to form iron chloride, and hydrogen gas is liberated. But some of the metals react with acids and then also do not liberate hydrogen gas. they are copper. Some of the metals are copper, which react with sulfuric acid and nitric acid, but do not liberate hydrogen gas. Non-metals generally do not react with acids, but yes, ma'am. But they can react with hot, concentrated nitric acid and sulfuric acid, but they do not liberate hydrogen gas.
Hydrogen gas. Now next, Sarah,
Yes, ma'am.
what is reactivity series?
A reactivity series in which the metals have been arranged in their decreasing order of reactivity.
Which one is the most reactive and the least reactive metal?
Potassium is the most reactive and platinum is the least reactive.
Okay. Now next, Anurag. Anurag Anand,
Yes, ma'am.
what is displacement reaction?
A reaction in which a more reactive metal displaces a lesser reactive metal from the aqueous solution of this salt is another example of a displacement reaction. Is a displacement reaction.
Example, give the example. Give one example of displacement reaction, Anurag Anand.
Yes, ma'am. Magnesium plus copper sulfate is equal to magnesium sulfate and copper.
Ananya,
Yes, ma'am.
what are noble metals and why these are made? Why these metals are used for making jewelries?
Yes, ma'am. Least reactive metals are known as noble metals. These metals are generally these metals do not get chemically affected by substances around them like acid or bases. They do not get tarnished and retain their luster for a long time, and they are also very ductile and malleable. Hence, they are used for making jewelries.
Kavish, Kavish, are you ready, Kavish? Kavish, you are not responding. Okay. Vashvi,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
are alloys?
What, ma'am?
What are alloys?
Yes, ma'am. An alloy is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals, or a metal or a non-metal.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Kavish?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, आप बोलिए. Why is sodium and potassium is stored under kerosene? Give reason. Why?
And sodium potassium are stored under kerosene because they react vigorously with water, and this reaction gives out so much heat that the hydrogen evolved and catches fire. Therefore, these metals are stored under kerosene and paraffin wax.
Okay. Ria,
Yes, ma'am.
why is bronze preferred over copper metal for making statues?
Bronze is yes, ma'am. Bronze is more suitable for making statues because it is more stronger, harder, and more resistant to corrosion than copper.
Yes. Next. List any 3 uses of non-metals. Yashvi Rai.
Yes, ma'am. First, phosphorus is used in matchbox industry and for making firecrackers and in fertilizers. And sulfur is used in uh, gunpowder, firecrackers, and as sulfuric acids in laboratories. Iodine is used as antiseptic, and oxygen is essential for our existence.
Anupriya,
Yes, ma'am.
you just give me the composition of the alloy named as duralumin and its use.
मैम प्लीज रिपीट
Duralumin.
मैम इसका यूज बताना है
इसका कॉम्पोजिशन बताना है, किस चीज से बना हुआ है डुरालुमिन, कौन
Yes,
कौन सा
ma'am.
इसमें
It is
metals है?
it is made up of aluminium, copper, magnesium, and manganese.
And what is its use?
It is used in making automobile parts and undersea vessels, etc.
Next, Shubh Narayan,
Yes, ma'am.
you tell me the composition of gunmetal and its use.
Yes, ma'am. Gunmetal's composition is a copper plus tin plus bronze plus copper, tin, and ma'am zinc. Copper, tin, and zinc. It is used for making gun barrels.
Then Aryan Raj,
Yes, ma'am.
you tell me the composition of German silver and its use.
Yes, ma'am. Copper plus zinc plus nickel and used for making tableware.
Priyanshu Ranjan, Priyanshu Ranjan, Sudhanshu, Sudhanshu Jha,
Yes, ma'am.
you tell me the composition of stainless steel and its use. Be quick,
Ma'am,
children.
repeat the question.
Composition of stainless steel and its use.
Yes, ma'am.
Iron plus chromium plus nickel.
Stainless steel are steel containing at least 10.5% chromium, less than 1.2 carbon, and other alloying elements. Stainless steel corrosion resistant and mechanical properties can be further enhances adding other elements such like nickel, titanium, manganese, etc. And it's
Okay,
used to
chalo, next.
Ma'am,
So
it is
children, you don't have to give the percentage, only if you will give the composition, then it's okay. Clear? और इसका use बता दो.
Yes, ma'am. It is used for making a kitchen accessories, cookware, and cutlery.
Now, children, one thing I wanted to